Barbecue. And that took us back to Reverend Zack, Walk on Water, off the brand new Keep On Moving On CD. We're having a good time on the Mando Blues show tonight. We got a hell of a meal getting cooked back behind us. I mean, folks, I think we're giving Loveless a run for the money tonight, man. I'll tell you what. We got greens and steaks and taters and stuffed mushrooms rolling. We're getting ready to really throw down. But the reason, well, I love playing the Leonard Skinner stuff because I was such a huge Skinner fan. And when part of my thing with the show is being a rock kid, now doing a blues show, I wanted to, as often as I could, kind of show the bridges, from one to the other. And how I found out about blues pre-Stevie Ray Vaughan was, Skinner and Zeppelin and Stones and all these rock bands that were playing blues songs, and I'm going, wow, I love these bands, I love that. Well, who is Muddy Waters? I don't know who Muddy Waters is. And so that was my initial intro to the blues, and then of course Stevie came out, and then my generation, that he just really just blew us all away. That was awesome. But so when I started doing the show, I started going back and saying, all right, I know Skinner did some blues. What's some Skinner blues? I know, I want to find all this stuff. And so that was a great track that they did. I think that was an early track, was it not? No, that was later. Okay. All right. So, and the other reason I did this is because when Reverend and I were talking about this show, he mentioned to me that he has a member of the Skinner family in his band, and actually has quite the story to tell. So, Zack?
Well, Paul Welch, we've been together about 2.5 years. He started when I first kicked it. We've been through a lot of guitar players, me and him, but he's been with me all the way through, holding down the bottom, as he says. Been kind of my right-hand man and really worked hard for this project. But Paul, when we talk about Walk on Water and we talk about the ministry, I always like to say, if people don't believe in miracles, Paul is really a walking one, because he was in that plane crash, and he went down in that plane and was a survivor, only by miracle. I mean, anybody to walk out of that thing. But we wanted Paul to say hey, and you can ask him whatever you want to ask him, and we just love Paul. He's been a great help and a great band member, and just a good friend. And we're glad that he walked out of that crash, because now we're doing some stuff together, and that's really cool.
Yeah, we're glad you made it, Paul. Absolutely. So the only other person that I have talked to about the crash was Artemis. I had some conversations with Artemis about a year ago, and I got sort of his kind of take on what happened, and so I'm just kind of curious if you could share some of the story with us. I mean, it's not often that you get to talk to somebody that survived a plane crash, much less the plane crash. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what that,
Well, before I go into that, I have to do things while I'm thinking of them, or they disappear.
Okay.
That song, Ain't No Good Life, was off Street Survivors.
Okay.
And that was the last album the, quote, original band recorded.
And that had all the flames behind the people that didn't make it and all that kind of crazy stuff.
The original had the flames, and that was just, they're photographically, Photoshop, whatever, added to a picture. And there's no need to go into all the... MCA was nice and yielded to the Widows' request to take those flaming pictures off the album.
Right.
But back to the crash itself. The last memory I have before the crash was when the starboard engine caught on fire. And my next memory was almost a month later, when I woke up in a green room and looked around and said, what the beep am I doing in a hospital?
Sure.
So I don't know much of what happened from personal first-hand experience.
Right.
Although many of the survivors who maintained consciousness throughout, like Artemis, like Alan, we've talked about it. And, Billy, Alan, and Artemis and I have talked most about it.
Right.
But So I'm sure my story is rather similar to Artemis's because
Right.
I got it from him.
Right, right. Well, yeah, he apparently was the one that took off and got help.
Exactly.
But-
Despite having broken ribs,
Yeah,
and punctured lung.
right,
and,
right. Yeah,
Artemis is a hero,
yeah,
and most folk don't realize that. But
right.
he's instrumental in any of us surviving.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm glad we got to meet you, and I'm glad you survived, and
thank
I'm
you.
glad you came out with Reverend, and you're doing this. You sound great. The playing's fantastic, and
Thank you.
and man, what a blessing to have survived that, and to be able to.
Well, and not only survive it, but part of it, one of the injuries I received cut through nerves in my arm, and I'm not supposed to be able to move my fingers. But a lot of therapy, a lot of work, and a whole lot of prayer.
Sure.
God has brought me. I've always loved the blues, even from a little kid.
Right.
But my record collection is extremely wide. I
Right.
have all kinds of stuff.
Right.
But the blues has always been home. But I started playing bass in a Jesus Freak band,
Right.
and went from there to playing blues, and now I'm playing blues in a Jesus Freak band.
There you go. That brings it all together.
There's something that I was just thinking about, and this question wasn't answered, and I think everybody want to know what Paul was really doing on that plane. Now,
Well,
Paul,
and I was gonna get there.
you want to
Yeah.
ask Paul, or go ahead?
Well,
man.
he knows the question. Go ahead, Paul. Tell us.
I was a sound man.
Okay.
There were 3 Shoko engineers and 1 Leonard Skinner sound engineer on board the airplane. Ken Peden, Don Kretschmar, and I were the Shoko engineers, and Kevin Elson did Skinner's house as well as their studio mixing.
Right.
And so I was not a direct Leonard Skinner employee at the time of the crash.
Oh, gotcha.
We had been talking. They liked some of the things I was doing.
Right.
Like, for instance, the song That Smell.
Yeah.
You know how there's that loud whistle that Ronnie does.
Yeah.
When you've got stage monitors at your feet, each of which is being fed with 750 watts of crown power, and somebody whistles like that into it, it hurts.
Yeah.
We did that song in sound check, and then I remembered which song where the whistle was, etc. So when that came, I turned Ronnie's microphone off in the monitors.
Right.
Of course, it still went to the house. The
Right.
audience heard.
Right.
The band could hear it echoing throughout the room
Right.
from the mains, but it was not at their
But
feet.
thank you for not blowing
Yes.
our eardrums again.
And, I created a bunch of fans of my engineering
Right.
at that time. And
Well-
that was one of the reasons I was being chosen to work directly with them. But we were going to have one more talk in Baton Rouge about that.
Right.
And never made it.
Yeah. Well, I'll be darned. Well, glad you made it. Glad you're here tonight.
Me too,
That's fantastic. All right, Zach. It's time for some more live music.
Well,
What do you guys
put
feel?
your bass on there, Paul, and let's.
Let's get some instruments live.